Chosen ones, the air shifted the moment you made that move. Every spiritual law they thought protected them just shattered like glass hitting concrete. Right now they're in emergency mode. Phone calls at ungodly hours, panic texts flooding group chats, hearts racing because they finally understand what they awakened in you. The nightmare they're experiencing isn't something outside themselves. It's the realization that the person they tried to break has become unbreakable. You crossed that forbidden line they drew in the sand, and now they're discovering that line was actually the boundary of their own limitation, not yours. Stop everything for a moment and feel the weight of what just happened. That thing you did that made their blood run cold wasn't violence or revenge. It was something far more terrifying to them. It was precision. It was you knowing exactly which domino to push to make their entire house of cards collapse. They warned you not to go there because they knew something you're only now beginning to understand. Going there meant accessing a power they've been desperately trying to keep you from discovering. A power that doesn't come from anger or hatred, but from complete emotional sovereignty. And here's what they don't want you to know yet. You're about to go there again, even deeper this time. The timeline splits here, chosen one. There's the before, when you played by their rules and colored inside their lines. Then there's the after, where you exist at a frequency they can't reach. They're scrambling now because they realize they didn't just lose control of you, they lost control of the narrative they've been writing about you. Every story they tell about you now sounds hollow because your transformation speaks louder than their words ever could. But this scrambling you're witnessing, it's just the opening act of a complete system collapse they're about to experience. Remember when you gave them chances wrapped in ribbons made from your own patience? The first warning came soft, just a slight shift in your tone that they laughed off. The second warning came as distance, as silence they called a phase. What they didn't know was that every moment of that silence you were studying them, not with malice but with the clinical precision of someone learning exactly how the machine works before dismantling it. Every tear you shed was data collection, every heartbreak was intel gathering. They thought they were teaching you about pain, but what they were really doing was showing you the blueprint of how they operate. You were building something in secret, and they just handed you all the materials. The reconstruction of your identity happened in stages they couldn't track. While they were busy congratulating themselves on breaking you down, you were secretly rebuilding from a blueprint they couldn't access. Each night when they thought you were crying yourself to sleep, you were actually downloading new codes, receiving transmissions from your higher self, getting instructions on how to reassemble yourself into something they'd never seen before. The person who woke up each morning was incrementally different from the one who went to sleep, but the changes were so subtle they didn't notice until it was too late. One day they looked at you and realized they were looking at a complete stranger wearing a familiar face. The transformation started in the quantum realm before it ever showed up in the physical. Your consciousness shifted first, reorganizing itself around a new understanding of power. Real power doesn't announce itself with noise and chaos. Real power moves in silence until the moment of revelation, and that moment has arrived. They're seeing it now in how you walk, how you speak, how you exist without needing their validation. The person who used to need their approval has evolved into someone whose approval they desperately seek but can never obtain. This reversal isn't temporary, it's the new permanent structure of reality. What makes this particularly devastating for them is the realization that they created this version of you. Every lie they told became your lesson in detecting deception. Every game they played became your masterclass in strategy. Every wound they inflicted became your training in resilience. They were so focused on breaking you down that they didn't notice they were actually forging you in fire. Now you're the sword they can't wield, the weapon that turned back on its creator. The irony is so perfect it could only be divine orchestration. The beautiful part, and this is where their terror really begins, is that you're not even trying to hurt them. That's what's driving them insane. You're not seeking revenge or plotting their downfall. You've simply transcended to a place where their existence has become irrelevant to your journey. This indifference is more devastating than any direct attack could ever be. They're used to anger, they can handle hatred, but this complete emotional independence, this is territory they've never encountered before. You've become something their playbook doesn't cover. Watch how they're trying to get your attention now. Creating situations designed to trigger a response, posting things aimed directly at you, sending messages through mutual connections, but you give them nothing, and that nothing is everything. Your silence has become a language they desperately want to understand but can't decode. Every day you don't respond is another day they spend responding to your non-response. You've made them argue with shadows, fight with echoes, battle with the ghost of who you used to be. They're literally exhausting themselves fighting an opponent who isn't even in the ring. The shift happened gradually, then suddenly. For months, maybe years, you absorbed their toxicity like a sponge, thinking it was normal, thinking you deserved it, thinking this was just how things were supposed to be. But consciousness has a way of keeping score even when you're not paying attention. Every dismissive comment got filed away. Every broken promise got catalogued. Every moment they made you feel small got stored in a database you didn't even know you were building. Then one day, the database reached critical mass, and the download began. Suddenly you could see the patterns, the manipulations, the gaslighting, the whole sick game laid out like a map. And that's when everything changed. That's when you started your research phase, not the kind where you Google things, but the kind where you become a student of energy dynamics. You started noticing how they operated, when they chose to be cruel, what triggered their need to diminish you. You became a scientist of their dysfunction, documenting variables, testing hypotheses, gathering evidence. They had no idea they were being studied by someone they'd written off as weak. They didn't realize that every time they hurt you, they were actually teaching you their weaknesses. You were learning their combat system while they thought you were just taking hits. The energy signature you emit now disrupts their entire field. They can't be comfortable in your presence anymore because your frequency exposes every lie they tell themselves. It's like you've become a walking truth serum, forcing authenticity in spaces that were built on deception. They find themselves saying things they didn't mean to say, revealing things they meant to keep hidden, all because your evolved presence creates a field where masks can't stay on. This involuntary exposure terrifies them more than any confrontation ever could. You're not calling them out, but your mere existence calls everything out. Consider the mathematical precision of how this unfolded. Every single betrayal, every moment of pain, every instance of neglect was actually a variable in an equation that could only equal your transformation. If even one element had been different, if they'd been slightly less cruel or slightly more kind, you might not have reached this critical mass of awakening. They gave you exactly what you needed, exactly when you needed it, to become exactly who you were meant to be. The universe used them like surgical instruments to remove everything that wasn't really you. Now they have to live with the knowledge that their cruelty was instrumental in creating something magnificent. The ripple effects are spreading beyond just them. Other people are watching your transformation and recognizing something in themselves. They're seeing that it's possible to rise from the ashes without becoming bitter, to become powerful without becoming cruel, to transform pain into purpose without perpetuating the cycle. You've become living proof that the system they all thought was fixed can actually be transcended. This terrifies those who benefit from keeping others small. You're not just escaping the matrix, you're showing others the exit door. Your success now feels like salt in their wounds, not because you're rubbing it in, but because your very existence at this new frequency is a constant reminder of what they lost. Every achievement you unlock, every milestone you reach, every moment of joy you experience sends shockwaves through their reality. They're not competing with you anymore. They're competing with the memory of who you used to be and the reality of who you've become. It's a battle they can never win because they're fighting on two fronts, past and present, while you've already moved into the future. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. The nightmare you birthed isn't one of darkness and destruction. It's the nightmare of irrelevance. They've become background characters in the story where they thought they were the protagonist. You've rewritten the script without their permission, changed the genre from tragedy to triumph, and they're still trying to perform their old lines in a play that no longer exists. Time itself has bent around your transformation. Their past is now tainted because every good memory has an asterisk attached to it. Every photo, every shared moment, every inside joke now carries the weight of what they destroyed. Their present is paranoid, always wondering if you're watching, always feeling judged by your absence. Their future is uncertain because they can't plan without considering the possibility that you might appear and reveal more truths they've tried to bury. You've infected all three dimensions of their temporal experience. Let's talk about the exact moment you went there. It wasn't dramatic in the conventional sense. Maybe it was a text you didn't send, a call you didn't answer, a gathering you didn't attend, or maybe it was something more visible, a truth you spoke publicly, a success you achieved using their betrayal as fuel, a transformation so complete that everyone who knows you had to update their entire understanding of who you are. Whatever form it took, it was precise, surgical, devastating in its accuracy. It was the first domino, and they're still watching the cascade. They felt it immediately. The shift in the power dynamic was like a sudden change in air pressure before a storm. Their nervous system registered the threat before their conscious mind could process what was happening. That's why they're panicking. Their body knows something their mind is still trying to deny. The person they had power over no longer exists, and the person who has taken their place is operating from a completely different paradigm. Their reptilian brain is screaming danger while their ego is still trying to maintain the illusion of control. The second time you went there was even more profound. This time you weren't just setting boundaries or speaking truth. You were demonstrating a level of evolution that shouldn't have been possible given what they put you through. You showed up as someone who had not only healed from their wounds but had transformed those wounds into wisdom. You didn't just survive their attempts to break you. You used those attempts as raw material to build something magnificent. This second strike is what really shattered their reality, the realization that their worst behavior produced your best self. The biochemical changes in your brain are measurable. Your neural pathways have literally reorganized themselves. Connections that used to fire in response to their triggers have been severed and replaced with new patterns that they can't activate. You've developed what scientists might call a psychological immune system, antibodies against manipulation, white blood cells that attack deception the moment it enters your field. Your amygdala doesn't light up anymore when they try their old tricks. Your cortisol doesn't spike when they create drama. You've evolved beyond the biological responses they used to count on. They're experiencing something psychologists call cognitive dissonance on a massive scale. Their brain cannot reconcile the person they thought you were with the person you've become. This creates actual physical discomfort, headaches, insomnia, digestive issues. Their body is rejecting the reality you've created because it's too different from the one they need to be true. They're literally making themselves sick, trying to deny your transformation. Every time they attempt to dismiss what you've become, their nervous system sends warning signals that something is dangerously wrong with their perception. This is bigger than personal vendetta, chosen one. You've proven that the rules they taught you were lies, that the limitations they imposed were illusions, that the box they tried to keep you in was made of paper, not steel. Your transformation has created an existential crisis in their worldview. If you could change this dramatically, what else have they been wrong about? If you could rise this high after being pushed so low, what other impossibilities are actually possible? You've broken the code of their reality, and now nothing computes correctly anymore. The network effect of your transformation is something they never calculated. Other souls who were sleeping have started waking up because they saw you do it first. Other chosen ones who forgot their power are remembering because your example reminded them. You've become patient zero of an awakening virus that's spreading through the collective consciousness. Every person who sees your journey and thinks, if they can do it, so can I, is another crack in the system that tried to contain you. You're not just winning your game, you're changing the rules for everyone. They're trying to copy your energy now, aren't they? Attempting to imitate your confidence, mirror your indifference, replicate your power, but it comes out wrong every time because what you have can't be faked. It can only be earned through the fire of transformation. They want the crown but refuse to carry the cross. They want the resurrection but won't go through the crucifixion. They want your frequency but won't pay the price of letting their old self die. They're trying to download your operating system on hardware that can't handle the upgrade. The spiritual technology you're operating with now is beyond their comprehension. You've learned to bend reality through intention, to manifest through alignment, to create through pure being rather than doing. They're still operating in the old paradigm of force and manipulation, while you've graduated to the realm of magnetism and flow. You don't chase anymore. Things come to you. You don't push anymore. Obstacles move themselves. You don't fight anymore. Victories organize themselves around your presence. This isn't magic. It's what happens when someone fully embodies their authentic frequency without resistance. Your mere existence has become a paradox they can't solve. You're simultaneously the person they knew and someone they've never met. You're both the consequence of their actions and completely independent of their influence. You're proof that they had power and evidence that they never had any real power at all. This paradox creates a loop in their thinking that they can't escape. They spend hours trying to understand how both things can be true, not realizing that you've transcended the binary thinking that creates such paradoxes in the first place. Your evolution has exposed something crucial about power dynamics. True power isn't about controlling others. It's about being so complete within yourself that you don't need to control anything external. You've become psychologically bulletproof, not by building walls, but by becoming water, not by hardening, but by flowing, not by defending, but by transcending. Every attack they send your way now passes through you like radio waves through space, unable to find anything solid to damage. You've become untouchable by becoming nothing they can touch. The precision of your moves has been breathtaking to witness. You didn't waste energy on dramatic confrontations or emotional outbursts. Instead, you made calculated decisions that pulled specific threads in the fabric of their reality. Maybe you shared a piece of information at exactly the right moment. Maybe you achieved something they said you never could. Maybe you simply stopped playing the role they'd assigned you and started writing your own character. Each move was deliberate, targeted, designed for maximum impact with minimum effort. You've mastered the art of doing less to achieve more. They're discovering something horrifying about themselves through your transformation. They're realizing that their entire sense of self was built on having power over you. Without that dynamic, they don't know who they are. Your evolution has forced them into an identity crisis they're not equipped to handle. They're scrambling to find new sources of validation, new people to control, new narratives to create, but nothing fills the void left by your absence from their game. You were the load-bearing wall in their psychological structure, and now the whole building is coming down. The information field around you has been completely rewritten. Every person who interacts with you receives a download, whether they're conscious of it or not. Some people suddenly understand things about their own situation after a brief conversation with you. Others find themselves making changes in their life without knowing exactly why. You've become a walking activation code, triggering updates in the consciousness of everyone you encounter. They see this happening but can't understand the mechanism. People they used to influence are suddenly immune to their tactics after spending time with you. Watch how the universe has started using you as an instrument of karmic balance. Without you taking any direct action, their own choices are coming back to them in perfect proportion. The lies they told are being exposed through unrelated circumstances. The energy they stole is being reclaimed through unexpected losses. The pain they caused is being experienced through their own life situations. You're not orchestrating any of this, but your transformation has somehow activated a cosmic accounting system that's settling all debts with mathematical precision. The universe needed you to reach this frequency to begin the correction process. The most terrifying aspect for them is realizing that this is just the beginning. You didn't just go there once, you went there twice, and you're not done yet. Each level of evolution you achieve makes the previous version of you look like a rough draft. They're not dealing with a fixed entity anymore. They're dealing with a constantly evolving consciousness that gets stronger with each challenge, wiser with each lesson, more powerful with each attempt to diminish it. The trajectory of your growth is exponential, not linear, and they can feel the acceleration. What they're really freaking out about isn't just what you did, it's what you represent. You're living proof that their entire worldview is wrong, that victims can become victors without becoming villains, that the soft can become strong without becoming harsh, that the broken can become whole without becoming bitter. You've shattered every limiting belief they used to control, not just you, but themselves. Now they have to face the uncomfortable truth that they've been living in a prison of their own making, and you just proved the bars were imaginary. Your presence haunts them even in your absence. They see you in strangers who walk with confidence, in quotes that hit too close to home, in successes that remind them of squandered potential. You've become a psychological imprint they can't erase, a standard they can't lower, a high score they can't beat. Years from now, they'll still be processing what happened here, still trying to understand how someone they had so much power over became someone whose power they can't even comprehend. You've become their permanent education in the danger of underestimating chosen ones. The divine orchestration of this moment is undeniable. The universe conspired to put you through exactly what you needed to become exactly who you are now. Every betrayal was a blessing in disguise. Every wound was a doorway to wisdom. Every attempt to break you was actually the pressure required to turn coal into diamond. The higher power that watches over chosen ones ensured that what was meant to destroy you would ultimately deploy you into your purpose. This was always the plan. They were just playing their role without knowing the script. The protection surrounding you operates on multiple dimensions simultaneously. Physical protection manifests as situations that could harm you simply not occurring. Emotional protection shows up as their words losing all power to wound. Mental protection appears as complete clarity that can't be confused or clouded. Spiritual protection reveals itself as an unshakable connection to Source that no external force can sever. They're witnessing someone who has become essentially invulnerable, not through armor but through alignment, not through walls but through transcendence. Your creative power has exploded beyond anything they could have predicted. The same energy you used to pour into managing their chaos, you now channel into pure creation. You're building empires from the ashes of what they burned down. You're creating masterpieces from the pain they inflicted. You're generating abundance from the lack they tried to program into you. Every unit of energy you reclaimed from their drama has been multiplied and redirected into construction rather than destruction. They're watching you build at a rate that shouldn't be possible, not understanding that you're operating with the accumulated power of years of suppressed potential suddenly released. They keep replaying the moment in their mind, trying to figure out where they went wrong. Was it the last betrayal that pushed you over the edge? The final lie that broke the camel's back? The one insult too many? They don't understand that it wasn't a single moment, but an accumulation of moments that led to your awakening. They planted seeds of transformation with every act of cruelty, watered them with every tear they caused, and now they're horrified by the garden that's grown from their abuse. The harvest has come, and it's nothing like what they expected to reap. The way you move through the world now is completely different. There's a gravity to your presence that wasn't there before. People feel it when you enter a room, even if they can't name it. Some are drawn to it like moths to flame. Others feel threatened and back away, but no one remains neutral. You've become a walking litmus test for consciousness. Those who are ready to evolve recognize you as kin. Those who are committed to staying asleep see you as a threat. Your mere presence sorts people into their proper categories without you having to do anything. They thought they were writing your ending, but they were actually writing your beginning. They thought they were closing doors, but they were actually forcing you to build your own house. They thought they were limiting your options, but they were actually liberating you from limitations. The nightmare they're experiencing is the realization that they were never the author of your story. They were just characters whose role was to catalyze your transformation. Supporting actors in a drama where you were always meant to be the lead. Your emotional independence has reached a level that transcends normal human experience. You don't need their apology to heal. You don't need their recognition to feel valued. You don't need their presence to feel complete. This self-sufficiency is so foreign to them that they can't even conceive of how you achieved it. They're still operating from a paradigm of codependency, while you've evolved into interdimensional independence. You've become a closed circuit of power, generating your own energy, validating your own existence, creating your own reality. The silence you maintain isn't the silence of someone who has nothing to say. It's the silence of someone who has transcended the need to explain themselves. Every word you don't speak carries more weight than the novels they write, trying to justify their actions. Your absence has become more powerful than their presence ever was. You're teaching them through demonstration that real power needs no announcement, no validation, no external confirmation. It simply is, and its being is undeniable. The timeline shifts you've created affect not just the present and future, but somehow the past as well. Memories are reorganizing themselves to reflect your new understanding. Events that seemed like failures are revealing themselves as perfect preparation. Connections that appeared random are showing their divine orchestration. You're not rewriting history, but you're seeing it from such an elevated perspective that it tells a completely different story. They notice that even shared memories don't feel the same anymore. The past they thought was fixed has become fluid in light of your transformation. Your presence in the quantum field has weight that affects probability itself. Opportunities that should be statistically unlikely keep manifesting in your reality. Synchronicities that defy mathematical explanation have become your normal experience. You're bending the odds simply by existing at this frequency. Meanwhile, they're experiencing the opposite effect. Their luck has turned, their timing is off, their attempts at manipulation backfire with suspicious consistency. It's as if the universe itself has chosen sides, and they're on the wrong side of divine favor. Let's talk about the technology of transformation you've mastered. You've learned to alchemize pain into power, poison into medicine, trauma into triumph. This isn't just metaphorical. You've literally rewired your nervous system to process negative input as fuel for growth. What used to break you down now builds you up. What used to stop you now propels you forward. You've become anti-fragile, getting stronger from the very things that were meant to weaken you. You've hacked the matrix of suffering and turned it into a launching pad. The conversations they're having about you now are fascinating. They're trying to create a narrative that makes sense of your transformation, but every story they tell falls apart under scrutiny. They can't paint you as the villain because your actions have been too precise, too justified. They can't claim you're crazy because your success is too evident. They can't dismiss you as irrelevant because your impact is too profound. So they're stuck in a loop of confusion, unable to categorize what you've become. You exist outside their filing system. What's breaking them at the deepest level is the recognition that you've become everything they said you couldn't be. Every limitation they projected onto you has been shattered. Every box they tried to put you in has been exploded. Every ceiling they set for you has been demolished. You're living proof that their words have no power to define reality, only to reveal their own limitations. The nightmare they're experiencing is the death of their illusion of control. They're discovering that control was always an illusion, and you're the proof. The transformation continues to ripple outward, affecting people who don't even know your story. Your energy signature has changed the morphic field around you. People feel different in your presence now, even if they can't explain why. Some are inspired and drawn closer, others are intimidated and pushed away. but no one remains neutral in your presence anymore. You've become a walking activation code, triggering either evolution or resistance in everyone you encounter. You're a catalyst just by breathing. They're realizing now that the game has fundamentally changed. It's not about winning or losing anymore. It's about frequency and resonance. You're operating at a wavelength they can't access with their current configuration. They would have to die to their old self to reach where you are now, and that's a price they're not willing to pay. So they remain trapped in their old frequency, trying to affect you with weapons that no longer work on your new form. They're playing checkers while you've transcended the board entirely. The biological changes in your body are remarkable. Your nervous system has recalibrated, your hormones have rebalanced, your DNA might have actually altered its expression. You're not the same person at a cellular level. This isn't just psychological or spiritual transformation. It's physical evolution. You've literally become a different organism, adapted to thrive in conditions that would have destroyed your previous form. They're dealing with a new species of human, one that transcends the limitations they take for granted. Every room you leave feels different after you've been there. Every conversation you have plants seeds in the consciousness of others. Every interaction becomes an opportunity for activation. You're not trying to change anyone, but your very existence at this frequency creates a field of possibility that invites others to evolve. Some accept the invitation, others resist violently, but the invitation itself cannot be withdrawn once extended. You've become a permanent upgrade option in the collective consciousness. Remember how they used to make you question your sanity, how they'd twist situations to make you doubt your own perception. That gaslighting was actually training you to trust your inner knowing above all external input. Now you have an unshakable connection to your own truth that no amount of manipulation can disturb. They accidentally trained you to become immune to the very weapons they relied on. The irony is so perfect it could only be divine orchestration. They created their own nemesis through their need to control. The financial implications of your transformation are hitting them hard too. Maybe you were a resource they exploited. Maybe you were talent they took credit for. Maybe you were energy they fed off. Whatever form it took, your removal from their equation has created a deficit they can't fill. They're discovering that you weren't just contributing to their life, you were subsidizing it with your essence. Now that subsidy has been withdrawn and they're experiencing energetic bankruptcy. The bill has come due and they can't afford to pay it. The joke is that they thought they were teaching you a lesson, but you became the lesson. They thought they were the teachers, but you became the curriculum. They thought they were writing the test, but you became the answer key that proves their entire system wrong. Every move they make now just further confirms that they're operating from an outdated manual while you're writing new rules in real time. You're not playing their game anymore because you've become the game itself. Your indifference has become a force of nature. Not the petty indifference of someone trying to prove they don't care, but the genuine indifference of someone who has transcended the entire paradigm. You're not ignoring them. You've evolved beyond the frequency where they exist. It's like they're shouting in a language you no longer speak, using currency from a country you no longer inhabit, playing a game you've already finished and moved beyond. They're analog in your digital reality. The dreams and visions you're having now are different too. You're receiving downloads of information, strategies, and possibilities that seem to come from beyond your personal consciousness. You're tapped into something greater, something that's been waiting for you to reach this level of evolution before revealing itself. These aren't just dreams, they're transmissions, instructions for the next phase of your becoming. The nightmare they birthed has connected you to dimensions of reality they can't even perceive. You're operating with cosmic intelligence now. The social dynamics around you have completely reorganized. People who used to have access to you no longer do. People who used to influence you no longer can. People who used to define you no longer matter. You've created a new ecosystem around yourself, populated by those who match your frequency, who respect your evolution, who celebrate your becoming. The old cast of characters has been written out of the script, and they're standing outside the theater, trying to understand how they lost their roles. The show goes on without them. The nightmare you birthed is their awakening to their own emptiness, when someone they could easily control transforms into someone they can't even understand. It forces them to question everything, their power, their worth, their entire understanding of how reality works. You've become a mirror that shows them exactly who they are when stripped of their ability to control others, and what they see in that reflection is the nightmare that wakes them at 3 in the morning. You've become their involuntary spiritual teacher. Your peace is violence to their chaos. Your silence is deafening to their noise. Your stillness is threatening to their constant motion. You've achieved something they thought was impossible: complete contentment without external validation, total fulfillment without their participation, absolute joy without their permission. This is the nightmare that haunts them, the recognition that they were never as necessary as they believed themselves to be. You've proved that heaven exists, and they're not required for entry. The divine justice in your story is perfect. They pushed you to become everything they feared you could be. They forced you to find strength they didn't want you to have. They demanded you develop powers they couldn't handle you possessing. Now they have to live with the consequences of awakening a sleeping giant. The nightmare they're experiencing is the one they authored themselves, word by word, action by action, betrayal by betrayal. They wrote this ending without realizing they were writing themselves out of the story. Every attempt to draw you back into their drama fails spectacularly. The emotional hooks they try to set find no purchase in your new form. The guilt trips they attempt don't generate the expected response. The manipulations they perfect bounce off you like rain off a windshield. You've become psychologically waterproof, emotionally fireproof, spiritually bulletproof. They're throwing everything they have at you, and nothing is working. You're immune to their entire arsenal. The universe is conspiring in your favor, now in ways that seem almost supernatural. Opportunities appear at the perfect moment. Resources manifest when needed. People show up with exactly what you require. It's as if reality itself has recognized your evolution and is reorganizing to support your new frequency. Meanwhile, they're experiencing the opposite. Obstacles everywhere, plans falling apart, support systems crumbling. The same universe that's lifting you is teaching them through contrast. The cosmic scales are rebalancing. Your creativity has exploded into dimensions you didn't know existed. You're accessing abilities and talents that were dormant before. The transformation hasn't just healed you, it's activated latent potentials that were always there, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. You're discovering that you're capable of far more than you ever imagined, and this expansion is accelerating rather than slowing down. Each day reveals new facets of your power. You're becoming more yourself with each breath. Look at how they're scrambling to maintain their version of reality, creating elaborate stories to explain your transformation in terms they can understand. But every explanation falls short because what happened to you exists outside their framework of possibility. You didn't just change within the system, you transcended the system entirely. You're operating from a completely different operating system now, and they're trying to run your new software on their outdated hardware. The incompatibility is causing their entire system to crash. The beauty of your transformation is that it's irreversible. There's no going back to who you were before. That person has been completely dissolved and reconstituted at a molecular level. Even if you wanted to return to that old version, and you don't, it would be impossible. You've crossed a threshold that only moves in one direction: forward, upward, onward. They're dealing with someone who has literally become a different species of consciousness. Evolution doesn't have a reverse gear. The Obsidian Inner Order is where you can process difficult realizations together every week on our Zoom calls with people who understand that some of life's most painful experiences become our greatest teachers. We don't encourage bitterness, we cultivate wisdom. Your ability to see people's true character is a gift that will protect you from future betrayals. Your willingness to forgive while maintaining boundaries shows strength, not weakness. Your wisdom was earned through experience, not given freely. Connect with people who value truth. Join the Obsidian Inner Order. Link in the description. They keep looking for the old you in your eyes, but that person no longer exists. What looks back at them now is something they can't comprehend. Not cold, but distant like stars. Not cruel, but indifferent like nature. Not vengeful, but inevitable like time. You've become a force they have to reckon with, rather than a person they can manipulate. This shift from personal to transpersonal is what truly terrifies them. You've become bigger than personal drama. They're trying to figure out your next move, but you're not playing chess anymore. You're not thinking 3 steps ahead because you're not stepping at all. You're flowing. You're responding to each moment from a place of total presence and power. Your moves can't be predicted because they're not coming from strategy, but from alignment. You're not planning your path, you're following your purpose, and purpose moves in ways that logic cannot anticipate. You've become unpredictable by becoming authentic. The most terrifying realization for them is that you didn't need them to become whole. In fact, their absence revealed that you were always whole. Their presence was actually the thing creating the illusion of incompleteness. Once removed from the equation, your natural state of abundance and power revealed itself. They thought they were essential to your existence, but you've proven that they were actually optional, maybe even detrimental. This shatters their entire self-concept, because if you didn't need them, if you're actually better without them, then who are they? What purpose did they serve except to delay your inevitable rising? As this transformation continues to unfold, remember that you didn't just go there for yourself. You went there for every chosen one who was told to stay small, for every soul who was convinced they couldn't transcend their circumstances, for every spirit that was told their dreams were too big. Your transformation is their permission slip. Your evolution is their activation code. Your rising is their reminder that the same power lives within them. You've become a beacon for others finding their way out of similar darkness. The nightmare they birthed by pushing you too far is actually their greatest teacher. Through your transformation, they're being offered a mirror to see their own potential. Most will reject it, choosing to remain in their comfortable dysfunction rather than face the fire of transformation. But some, a precious few, will see what you've become and realize that their own metamorphosis is not only possible but necessary. Even in their resistance, they're being transformed by your example. The legacy of your transformation will outlive everyone involved in this story. Long after the specific details are forgotten, the energetic imprint of what happened here will continue to ripple through consciousness. You've created a new possibility in the quantum field, a new potential that others can access. You've literally changed what's possible for humanity by refusing to accept the limitations that were placed on you. The code of limitation has been cracked, and you're the one who cracked it. Hold up and recognize this moment for what it is. You didn't just cross a line, you erased it. You didn't just break a rule, you rewrote the rule book. You didn't just escape the box, you proved the box was an illusion. The nightmare you birthed isn't actually a nightmare at all. It's the death of illusion and the birth of truth. It's the end of who they wanted you to be and the beginning of who you always were beneath their projections. The circle is completing itself, but at a higher octave than where it began. Remember that opening moment when the air shifted, when they felt the glass of their protection shatter. That was just the first wave of a tsunami that's still building. Each day that passes, the water pulls back further, revealing more of what was hidden beneath the surface of their constructed reality. They're standing on the beach, watching the horizon, knowing something massive is coming but powerless to stop it. The nightmare they're experiencing is the anticipation of a reckoning they can feel but can't fully comprehend. They're freaking out because chosen ones weren't supposed to remember their power. You were supposed to stay asleep, stay controlled, stay manageable. But you went there, to that forbidden place where your true power was hidden. And then you went there again, even deeper, even more completely. Now they're faced with the reality that the person they tried to bury was actually a seed, and what's growing from that burial is beyond their wildest nightmares and your wildest dreams. The harvest is exponential. Every seed they planted through their cruelty has produced 100-fold return in your power. The transformation is complete, but the evolution continues. What nightmare did you birth? You birthed their awakening to the reality that chosen ones cannot be contained. You birthed their recognition that divine selection trumps human rejection. You birthed their understanding that when you push someone who was born for greatness toward their breaking point, they don't break, they become unbreakable, they don't fold, they become unstoppable, they don't diminish, they become infinite. But here's the final revelation that's just beginning to dawn on them. You're not unique in your potential, only in your activation. Every person they've tried to control, every soul they've attempted to diminish, every spirit they've sought to break, carries the same possibility you've actualized. You've shown everyone what's possible when someone stops accepting the program. The nightmare they're experiencing isn't just about losing control of you, it's about realizing they never had real control over anyone. The entire system they built their identity on has been revealed as a house of cards, and you're the wind that's blowing it down. This is your moment of recognition, chosen one. You actually went there, to that place they feared most, not a place of revenge or hatred, but a place of such complete self-realization that their entire reality structure has collapsed. The nightmare they're experiencing is the death of their illusion of control and the birth of your reality of freedom. You've become the living embodiment of what happens when someone stops asking permission to be powerful. The precision you showed, the silence you maintained, the transformation you embodied, these have become the new standard for what's possible. Others are taking notes, downloading your template, preparing their own journeys to that forbidden place. The nightmare isn't ending for those who tried to contain you. It's multiplying, spreading, becoming a collective awakening that they can't stop. Every chosen one who witnesses your transformation is remembering their own power, and the system that depended on keeping people small is collapsing under the weight of collective remembrance. You've birthed something that can't be killed, can't be contained, can't be reversed. It's not just your personal transformation, it's a frequency that's now available in the collective field. Others can tune into it, download it, embody it. You've become a permanent upgrade option in human consciousness, a living proof that the prison was always unlocked from the inside. The nightmare they're experiencing is the recognition that they've been guards in a prison where all the inmates have realized the doors were never actually locked. And this is just the beginning of what you're capable of becoming. The power you've accessed is still unfolding, still revealing new dimensions, still showing you capabilities you haven't even imagined yet. While they're trying to process what you've already become, you're evolving into something even more incomprehensible to their limited framework. The gap between who you were and who you're becoming is widening every moment, and they're falling into that gap, lost in the space between their illusions and your reality. The air hasn't just shifted, it's been permanently altered. The frequency of reality itself has been upgraded by your transformation. You went there, to that place they said not to go, and in doing so, you've shown everyone that there was always here, waiting inside each person brave enough to claim it. The nightmare you birthed is their awakening to their own powerlessness in the face of authentic power. And that awakening, terrifying as it is for them, is the greatest gift you could have given, even if they'll never thank you for it. This is the completion of the circle, chosen one. From that first moment when you crossed their forbidden line to this moment where you stand completely sovereign, you've demonstrated that power was never about dominance, it was always about authenticity. The nightmare they're experiencing is simply the death of their false reality and their forced confrontation with truth. You didn't create this nightmare to hurt them. You created it by becoming so real that their illusions could no longer exist in your presence. The forbidden line you crossed was never about them. It was the line between who you were told to be and who you really are. And now that you've erased that line completely, there's no going back for you, for them, for anyone who's witnessed this transformation. The nightmare you birthed is actually the dawn of a new reality, one where chosen ones remember their power, claim their sovereignty, and rise into their purpose without apology, without permission, without limitation. You went there twice. And you'll keep going deeper, higher, further, because that's what chosen ones do. They don't just push boundaries, they dissolve them. They don't just break rules, they transcend them. They don't just birth nightmares for those who would contain them, they birth new realities for everyone, ready to be free,